Greetings viewers, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be working on the 2013 Crosstrek. We're going to be replacing the lower control arm bushings. This is not going to be an exact how to DIY step-by-step video. It will mostly be that, but when we come to the actual pressing of the old bushings out of the control arm and pressing the new bushings in, I'm going to be using a new tool. It is an accessory from Snap-on for their BJP1 ball joint master press set. It's an adapter set specifically for Subaru control arm bushings. It makes the job far easier. If you're on a lift, you don't even have to take the control arm completely loose from the vehicle. But since I'm at limited access, limited working height on jack stands, I do have to drop the control arm to do this. I know not all of you have a $750 Subaru ball joint master press set with the optional $169 adapters. So I will link in the corner, this corner, that corner, whichever one the cards come up on, I can't remember now, a video I did in the past on replacing these bushings on a 2005 Legacy 2.5 wagon I had. It's the exact same bushing, same control arm, same procedure. But in that video, I show you how to do the procedure with a standard pneumatic shop press. So you know right now, to be able to replace these, you're gonna need either that ball joint press tool that I have or a pneumatic shop press. You cannot replace these without a press. They have to be pressed in and out, and they have to have these special cups of the correct size to press the bushings in and out as well. So if you don't have access to a shop press, best to not attempt this repair. A lot of people in the comments of that video said, well, the cost of a whole control arm with a new bushing is cheaper than the bushing and yada, yada, yada. That very may well be. And for you DIY guys, it's probably easier and cheaper for you to just replace the whole control arm assembly with the new bushings already installed. From Subaru, I don't think they come with the bushings. It would have to be, I believe, like a Moog or some other aftermarket brand to get that. In my case, or in case of any of you, one, that are just curious of the procedure, and two, actually happen to have these specialty tools, it's far cheaper just to replace the bushing, which I believe is like right at 30 bucks. Compared to, I think the Moog replacement control arm with bushings is $70 to $90 range, so not too terribly much more to have all new bushings and a new control arm aftermarket. But aside from the point, there's just a little, forewarning before we get into this. Like I said, I'm going to be using that new Snap-on tool I got. I already replaced the driver's side, made the job so much easier. Love it, should have bought it years ago. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it. So far we've got the Crosstrek jacked up. It is supported on jack stands in the front, and the passenger front wheel is off. We're gonna be working on the passenger side bushing. All right guys, for you that may not even know what we're talking about, this is the lower control arm here, and this is the control arm bushing, the rear bushing. This is what we're after. If you see here, this one has a lot of cracking. It is torn physically right here, and it's torn over here. It is well past its prime. Again, this car has I've got 207,700 some odd miles on it now. I've put over 1,000 miles on it in the last week. I've already taken it to the Blue Ridge Parkway, North Carolina, went to the mountains and a couple other trips, so getting a shakedown on the thing. But yeah, this bushing is bad and needs to go. Got a lot of play in the control arm. It'll start affecting your steering response, ride quality, things of that nature. So we're gonna go ahead and get into pulling it out and replacing it. All right, so we're gonna start off by removing the 17mm nut here on the sway bar end link and this 14mm bolt that holds the ball joint in the steering knuckle. Ball joint bolt is a 14mm. Yes, rust belt people hate me because these come out 7 years old, 207,000 miles, no rust, no fuss, no braking, and the ball joint will basically just fall out of there too when I hammer the control arm a couple times. So go ahead and leave your hate comments in the comment section below. end link out of the control arm. I'll go ahead and throw the nut back on there just so we don't lose it. All right, guys, again, bear with me. Limited space here to get the camera in, so I'm gonna take this bar off here. Two 17mm headed bolts. It's just a bracket that goes between the cross member and the rear control arm bushing. Now that that's out of the way, we can get up here to the front control arm nut and bolt. 17mm. Wrench here on the outside. Impact and socket on the back. Get that loose. All right, to the rear bushing area, we got two 19mm bolts and a 19mm nut. And that bracket comes out of the way. Now our control arm is fully loosened. All right, now that all the fasteners are out, a couple wraps with the hammer. I ought to free that control arm right out of the car and knock the ball joint loose from the spindle. Just like so, control arm is out. All right, now the control arm's out, you can really see the damage on that bushing where it's torn all through here. And it's just generally deformed. It should be pretty even. As you see, it's permanently deformed now from the weight of the vehicle and all those cracks and tears. Again, I'm not a big fan of this design. I don't know why they changed it to this design. The old design held up far better than this one ever has in me seeing them since 2005, essentially. They just don't hold up, and they fail a lot more than the old beefy bushings they used to have. So here comes the fun part. I'm gonna pull the old bushing, we'll drive it out of the control arm. So all we gotta do, set her up here between the cups, take her impact and drive her on out of there. Like I said, this tool and adapter make this a heck of a lot easier job. Snug it up. Make sure everything's lined up. I don't want to press this thing sideways and bend the control arm, destroy the control arm, because that can very well easily happen. This press does put out quite a bit of force, so take the time to make sure it's set up properly. I say that as if all of you have this $700-something tool, but you never know. So all set. Put the impact on her. And lay it down. Just like that. Old bushing's out. No damage whatsoever to the control arm. And our old bushing is pushed into the receiver cup. Just like so. And again, check out all the splits and tears and deformation there. Past its prime, been ready to be replaced. All right, so here is our new bushing, part number 20204AG011. And we can see a major difference in the old bushing and the new bushing. Now, with these bushings, there is a particular way they need to be installed, and there is an up and down. This little tang here that sticks up above the rest, that indicates up, that needs to go up towards the sky when in the vehicle. Also, this line right here, where the reliefs are, basically, if you see right here, it's a straight line right through here. That line is supposed to line up in a particular orientation in our control arm. So, looking at the control arm from the top, the line in this bushing is supposed to make a straight line across to our ball joint per the factory service manual. So be sure to have the correct side up installed and it in the correct orientation with that line going straight across from this point to this point. All right, new bushing is set, lined up, and going in. And we're all good, ready to reinstall this control arm with our brand new bushing installed. All right, time to reinstall our control arm. Just gonna set it back up in here essentially the same way it came out. Knock our ball joint back up into the spindle. Get the control arm bushings lined up with their bolt holes. I'll go ahead and install or reinstall the nut and bolt here at the front control arm bushing. And temporarily tighten that, just hand tight. Go back here to the rear control arm bushing. Temporarily tighten those. Reinstall the ball joint, pinch bolt. And our sway bar end link. All right, sway bar end link, we want to torque to 60 Newton meters. Ball joint pinch bolt, we want to torque to 50 Newton meters. All right, now for the next part, the service manual wants you to put the wheel back on, lower the car back down, put the full body empty curb weight of the vehicle on the suspension, load it up before you torque the bushing bolts. All well and good in a perfect world, but it's kind of hard to crawl under a car and torque the bolts with it flat on the ground if you don't have, say, an oil pit or a 4-post drive-on lift to do so. So what I like to do is take the floor jack, put it here under the control arm, jack up under the control arm until the car just barely lifts off of the jack stand, just so we know that the suspension on this corner is loaded. Once that's done and set, then we'll go through and do the final torque on all of our other fasteners. All right, we've got the jack set under the control arm, and the suspension is now loaded with the body weight of the car. So we're gonna go ahead and torque the smaller front control arm. Bolt and nut, that was a 17 millimeter. That is to be torqued to 95 Newton meters. And that's set. All right, now the 19 millimeter nut that goes on the rear control arm bushing is to be torqued to 110 Newton meters. All right, 110 on that. Then the two 19 millimeter bolts behind that are to be torqued to 150 Newton meters. All All right, those two to 150. Now all we have left is the two 17mm bolts for the bracket that runs between that rear bushing and the cross member. These two 17mm bolts are torqued to 100 Newton meters. And that does it. The whole front end is now torqued. We can let the pressure out on the jack, lower the suspension, and put our front wheel back on. All right, now we can torque our front lugs to 120 Newton meters. And we're done. All right, that'll do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.